Hello everyone and happy Monday. We're going to have I think a really rich conversation today around this hybrid solar eclipse. And so I'm going to be doing two things actually. So we're going to be doing the hybrid solar eclipse first and what's going on with that. So that's on Thursday. And I'm also going to do the fourth Venus gate. And this actually coincides exactly with Eris Jupiter conjunction on the 23rd of April. So I was so excited when I discovered that the two dates coincided, because this energy we're coming into is potentially very heart opening. It's a lot of line 4 energy going on. And Eris is, for me, like one of the main TNOs I would connect with synarchy and kind of divisions between women and women being played off against each other, in relation to men as well. So there's all kinds of issues that we're going to unpick. Hopefully I'm going to give this in such a simple, quintessential way. It'll all make absolute sense. Okay, so for those who are new to today, to this session on Soul Tribe, what I'm going to do is do about half an hour presentation, and then I'll stop the recording, and then there'll be time for to talk about whether this eclipse is affecting something in your chart. You might know that, or you might not, or just how you're feeling the energies, because the energies are already starting to intensify as we approach it. And what's going on in your life is always a good marker of how the energy is actually affecting you. Okay, so I'm going to go into sharing the presentation. I've started using this nice bee slide because I really feel this fine energy that we're kind of entering into the heart gate and the field. Okay, so the hybrid, announcements first. So the announcements are usually boring, aren't they? But these announcements do relate to what we're talking about. So the Venus Inanna Gate ceremony will be on Sunday, the 23rd of April from 8 till 10. And that's going to, as I say, coincide with the Eris-Jupiter conjunction. So there's big possibilities for sisterhood healing in that moment in time. So we're going to be working with the Tree of Life as a portal into miracles and wormholes, because the Venus Moon Gate is in the gene key 35, line 4. And 35 gene key is called wormholes and miracles. It's like this kind of portal into other dimensions. So we're going to be doing a heart chakra exercise with Cynthia. Cheryl is going to do this really beautiful Tree of Life celestial communication, and I'm going to do some creative writing with you. Okay, so tomorrow in the sphere of the brand, we're going to be going into our integration time with that. And we're going to be doing creative writing in that as well. Next week, we'll be doing Apollo as the first colonizer. So this is a totally unique take on Apollo and his usurping of Gaia as the first oracle of Delphi. And just to say, there'll be no class on the 1st of May, as I'll be in Glastonbury being the May Queen, with my beloved Adam being the May King. So I won't be available that day. Okay, so this hybrid solar eclipse. So for those of you more familiar with astrology, I'm looking at this through the human design lens, and then for the 24th of April, we'll look at the birth chart. So there's not a lot changing between the 20th and the 24th. So pretty much everything I'm saying about this solar eclipse, apart from where the sun is, basically applies also to the Venus moon gate when I talk about the asteroids, and we're going to talk about Varda, who's the fairy queen who creates stars. She's Tolkien's creation. Okay, so what we have on the day of the solar eclipse is the sun is at 29 degrees of Aries, and this is gene key 3, line 4. So here we have our first fourth line in this gene key that leads from chaos into innovation and then into innocence. Well, they all kind of weave together. You know, often we have to go into the chaos to begin to innovate. In order to get out of the chaos, we have to do something different, whether that's our inner chaos or outer chaos. So this feels very significant because there's also this 19-year ending and beginning cycle going on. I don't know a huge amount about it. Perhaps Laurie or Kristen can say something later on about it. But what it feels like is a kind of like a cellular restart. And if we look at the 42 gene key, this is all about the ending, the death experience. Like, imagine all our cells are dying all the time. So we're living in this dying body, and yet we can celebrate life even within that. And then what happens in the 3 is this renewal of the energy. So it falls this time of year in the spring, and, you know, we've got the kind of real kind of rising up of the new spring energies. We've got the Venus. Venus is in 16, line 6. This is to do with mastery. So it feels very much like this is to do with the mastery of our emotional level, because this is going to be a very intense kind of, I feel the energies as a nutcracker kind of energy. I'll show you why as we go on. So as this kind of cracking happens, you know, we need to be able to master our emotions and kind of bring ourselves into that 6th line where we can see the higher picture of where the future might take us. You know, if we don't react in this moment, maybe, you know, we can actually create an intention for where we want the energies to go. So the design sun, which is the side here, this red bit. So the design sun is 88 degrees before the eclipse, basically. Is the gene key 60, line 6, and this is actually called the cracking of the vessel, and it's to do with divine justice. So this is a big time where karma is being cleared and brought into equilibrium. Okay, and then the design Earth is the 56, line 6. The normal Earth is in the 50, line 4, which is also to do with equilibrium. So that feels like an important energy. Okay, so I'm not going to talk any more about the chart. So what is a hybrid solar eclipse? So a hybrid solar eclipse, I hadn't actually heard of it until this one. It's pretty rare, and it depends on where you are in the world. You will either see it as a total or an annular eclipse. So the last one was in 2005, and the next one will be in 2041. So for me, that speaks of, you know, wherever you are, you're seeing things in a way from your perspective, from your life experience. And there's this duality in the hybrid eclipse of how things could be seen. Yes, so there's this opening of a 19-year cycle that began in 2004, or sorry, closing and opening. So as I say, I don't know a huge amount about this, but when the year 2004 was talked about, that was actually a huge year when I left this job where I ran this really well-known crisis house. And it's interesting because there's been kind of articles, and the whole kind of ending of it has come up for me again, and kind of bringing more completion to the ending of, it was quite a traumatic ending of that job and that project for me. And a new moon solar eclipse, whatever type it is a marriage of the sun and the moon, the perfect cosmic alchemy of male, female. You know, if you think of how the moon exactly covers the sun, and then we've got the earth, it's really quite miraculous, a total eclipse, or an eclipse. So I've said this before, the eclipse takes place at 29 Aries and in gene key 3 line 4. So have a look in your birth chart if you have things in that part of the chart. So late part of Aries and early part of Taurus. I mean, it's going to connect to other things in the chart too, but that's the kind of basic information. So it's also conjunct Astraea, who's the goddess of the new golden age and the sacred artist. She's really bringing in a new sensitivity and light, and Vesta, the priestess. So this is an amazing time for us to kind of create intention. We're doing our ceremony on the 24th. To use our sacred arts in this group process to, it's almost like steering, you know, steering a mothership through space or something like that. That's how I imagine it or feel it. Okay, so let's talk about Varda. This is an image I found on the internet that is an image of Varda. She, as I say, she's Tolkien's creation. There's 2 bodies named for Tolkien's creations, Varda and Manwë, and they rule to kind of together. And Varda is the creator of the stars, which I really love that, because you'll see how her connection to light is so important. So we all know this, well, you may know, I think everyone knows about this kind of Japanese pottery where it cracks, it gets filled with gold and it becomes more beautiful. So here we have this kind of cracking of the vessel as this eclipse comes in, and Varda and Aphrodite are crossing the galactic center at this moment. And on the 20th. And this is an incredible source of light that we can actually draw down into our beings. So this the galactic center is gene key 11, line 5, and it's 27 Sagittarius in the zodiac. So we're moving with this gene key from obscurity, kind of being hidden in the dark, not able to show ourselves out of fear. And then we move into idealism. You know, what is our ideal world? What is our ideal life? And then we can move through these processes into the light, in becoming one with everything. So this, as we go through this week, you know, if you're feeling like you're struggling, call on Varda and or Aphrodite. You know, Aphrodite's a dancer and she's all about beauty and art as well. So, yeah. Now, Richard Rudd writes this about this gene key 11, and I've decided to use this paragraph because this is basically exactly what I'm experiencing in this kind of big silence here in France. This is the process that I feel is happening to me. So confronted by this great inner daemon, which for me, I feel is the shadow side, the separate self begins to dissolve into the archetype itself. Every projection or urge to identify with anything is gradually purged from your psyche. Once the process is ended, true reality manifests within that human being for the first time. It's as though the world has become purified. Behind and through all forms, a light shines, a clear, pure light, not a physical light, but an intelligence beyond all identification. One enters the mind and body of the divine. So I really feel like Varda and Aphrodite as embodying, like, archetypally this energy that Richard is talking about. Okay, so another powerful thing going on is Vulcan was the husband of Venus. He was crippled, actually, but he was so incredibly good at his creative skills in metalworking that Venus fell in love with him. So what we have, I've actually done this wrong. I meant to change this. So it's not conjunct the eclipse. It's actually in a square to the eclipse. And what we have opposite that is the design Uranian Vulcanus. So we have two of these Vulcan asteroids in play. So Vulcanus is in the 56 and Vulcan is in the 60, and then you've got the new moon solar eclipse kind of in a square to those. So this is why I'm feeling this kind of nutcracker effect, and it's very powerful to, you know, to have this square of energy. And then we've also got Pluto conjunct Vulcan as well. So it's like, oh my gosh, you know, it's like this. But it does have the potential for a complete kind of rebirth. If you can kind of attempt to master, or at least attempt to breathe through some of the painful, difficult energies that might come up around relationships at this time. Yeah, and there could be very deeply rooted blocks to love, opening our hearts to a new sense of freedom, to live with zeal in the present moment. So, you know, we spend a lot of our time trying to control what is going on so we don't get hurt. But in doing that, we kind of put ourselves in the handcuffs a bit. We're not free while we're in that state of mind of, you know, trying to manage and control everything. Okay, so Also helping in this big karmic clear up are Saturn and Pandora. They're in the early part of Pisces. And this is gene key 55, which leads from victimization to freedom. And Pandora is going to show us some big time, the true nature of what's going on. You know, Pandora's box opens and the first things that come out are not the good things, but there is hope in there. So that's the thing to remember with the box. But there could be some quite like, you know, in the news or in your personal life, some sort of revelations coming to light that are quite shocking. Okay, so let's have a look at the Venus moon gate. So if we look to the 10th house here, we can see Venus and the moon are at 14 degrees there. And this is what creates in the Venus cycle, which mirrors the story of Inanna. And we're in the ascending cycle where she's the evening star. So we're hitting this fourth gate, which is the heart gate. And we're in the 35, line 4. So again, we've got that 4 energy is really, I feel, prevalent. It's like the networking energy as well. So this is really beautiful as well. We can see here that I talked about Astraea and Vesta being conjunct at the eclipse. And here we see that Vesta's, Astraea, so she's goddess of the golden age, sacred artist. She's just moved into Taurus, which is the fixed earth sign, very Gaia, green energy. And then we have the sun exactly conjunct Vesta, and we have the north node just 1 degree away. So the north node is pulling everything towards this point, wherever the north node is. So we're being pulled towards this Taurian energy of Gaia, of plant life. You know, Venus rules the sign. It's very luxurious and sensual. And we have an exact conjunction with Vesta there. So this is the time for the priestess energy. You know, our prayers, our intentions, our ability to, you know, the priestess doesn't go out there on the front line with a barricade. She's like using her focused mind, her heart, her passion to create the change in the world. Yes, so we can see also here's Jupiter, and Jupiter is in this exact conjunction with Eris. So let me talk to that. Just check the time, we're okay. So this conjunction takes place in 42 line 5, which is basically 24 degrees Aries in the zodiac, and the programming partner is the gene key 32. So the 5th line influences society as a whole. In human design, the 42 is called benefit or increase. In the gene keys, it's called letting go of living and dying. So I mentioned this at the beginning. It's very intriguing, this 19-year cycle, because the 42 is about this kind of cellular death of the body that we're always in, but in our circadian rhythms, you know, it's more intense at certain times, like every 7 years. And it feels like this 19-year cycle, maybe an even kind of like a deep cleanse of the cellular level. Yes, so I wanted to share this little story. So earlier on in the week, woke up really calm, went to the Oracle deck, one of Eve's deck, and I pulled this blooming tsunami card, and it's all about like people, it's all about like something unexpected and terrible is about to happen. And I just went into this complete meltdown for the whole day. Like I couldn't control my mind. And it kept going through like, is my mom going to die? Is my dad going to die? Is Adam going to die? And no one would be able to contact me. And maybe Jay, my ex-partner, is going to die, and maybe one of the dogs is going to die. And just went, and I didn't know about this kind of thing about it being the death thing. But it's so funny because I think that was like the 42 line one day. And I just spent the whole day in this complete like fear just coursing through my body, and I couldn't control it. So when I read this, I was just like, oh my God, you know. And the thing is that nothing happened, you know, but it did happen because of my mind, because of my expectation that something terrible was going to happen. You know, I just went into this complete meltdown. So that was interesting, because this is the shadow of expectation. So our mind is like so powerful. And then it's the gift of detachment and the city of celebration. Yeah, so I talked about Eris being about the sisterhood, the healing of the sisterhood. And I think all of us come at this differently. And I had the big sisterhood healing in California, in part because of Kristen, who's here. So I've always been like a massive tomboy as a child, and I quite rejected the sort of feminine beauty culture. But I think so far that it's actually become, it's almost like a part of Venus Aphrodite is repressed in myself, or has been. And so, yeah, we went for manicures and pedicures, a whole group of us, women. And I've never done anything like that. And I absolutely loved it. And I thought, you know, I've never allowed myself to do this kind of, I've always been like, I don't do that, you know. And so just like allowing myself and kind of getting insight into maybe kind of jealousies I had of girls who I felt were prettier than me at school, or more feminine. So I kind of took a stance in my kind of androgynous tomboyishness. But yeah, so I think wherever we are, just to be aware of maybe parts of our female self we've pushed down, and you know, just allow them out, allow ourselves to play with our being a woman, being in a woman's body. We don't have to identify strongly with it. We can be detached, you know, this is a female form. What can I do with it? How can I experience life in this amazing female form? Yeah, so, and the final word on Eris, don't know if any of you have seen the film Maleficent. So Eris is very much that archetype. I think Maleficent gets her wings cut off by a man, and she goes into this really dark, vengeful way of being. And this is what Eris can be like as well. So you might meet someone also in your life who's like that. You know, they might pop up in your life, and it's like, ah, there's Eris. You know, let's invite her to the party this time. not kind of chuck her out, you know, because that's what basically caused the war, because Eris wasn't invited to a party. And then she got all the other goddesses fighting over a boy and an apple. And it's just a crazy story of, you know, how women can so easily lose their power and turn against each other. So that's what we've got to watch out for, and change the pattern. You know, I feel this is so significant for us here in this platform, because we're really, and I know other people are doing it elsewhere as well, but we're trying to create a new energy around around how women relate. And if we change, then the men can't play us off against each other. And, you know, they probably don't even want to either. So, you know, we've got to, once the feminine balances, it's almost like the masculine has to balance to be in relationship. And we'll always be in relationship with this male-female dynamic. Okay, so that's my gallop through everything that's happening. So I'm going to stop the recording and hand over to you to come in to see how many of us there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wow, there's 10 of us today. Okay, so we've got half an hour. I'm going to have to be succinct here. I'm going to use the little bowl. So if we have around 3 minutes each, because probably not everyone wants to share. So just pick out something that kind of really stood out for you and tell us about that. And if you're going much over 3 minutes, I'm going to ding the little bell to ask you to draw to a close. Okay, so over to you guys.